but we are getting somewhat close to the end of the show. And I want to bring up some. This would be one of the main points. And I was hoping we would have Cash here. I know you said we might be making conspiracy theories here, but it seems like sometimes when you've got the most important conversations, that's when things like this happen. So, Cash, I'm sure we'll pick you back up a little bit later on. Maybe we'll have to do it in person, and let's see if they stop us then. Yeah. But, we talk about using social media and these recordings inside of courtrooms because we need a voice. We need a voice to speak up, or else nobody's going to hear us. I'm curious on what you guys' thoughts are on using social media in the proper way to where we can actually get some solutions to all of the stuff we're seeing inside the courtrooms.
Well, I've seen interesting examples. I had one client who also had his due process rights violated at a status call. Hasn't had access with his children since June of 2018. Did absolutely nothing wrong. Whole thing on video. It's unbelievable. But he was another person who had a very public persona, was courageous. And it's interesting is that his Facebook followers would go to these attorney pages, and within 2 hours, he would have about 50 people giving them 0 Google reviews. So their Google rating on their attorney page would just crash from, let's say, 3.2 to 0, and people just absolutely slamming them. But that's a good way of holding people accountable. Is that if you're a profiteering attorney, if you're billing $600 to look the other way at all the positive evidence and find every excuse to drag things out, I think you're fair game, and I think that that's fair. I think that they're public reviews. I think that's a very positive aspect of social media. Cash posted a video. If you go to his page, he posted a video of his GAL, current guardian ad litem, telling him, this is what happened in his case. This woman got appointed in December. It's now 8 months later. She's incurred $10,000 in fees. He was never accused of any wrongdoing. And this woman says on video that she's not in charge of defending her client's civil rights. Okay, then why are attorneys GALs if you're not defending, if you don't think your job is to defend civil rights? But he's had 2 phone calls with his son. And incurred $10,000, and he said, "I can't afford this. What are you going to do? You want me to have my home foreclosed on? Do you want me to have my car repossessed?" And he said, "Do you think that's in the children's best interest?" And the guardian ad litem responded back. She says, "It's in my children's best interest to foreclose on your house."
Wow! And he has that. He has that online.
It's on audio. It has 23,000 views right now.
Okay, I need to get a hold of that too. I'll also repost it for him as well. But, I agree with what you're saying regarding the use of the social media. A lot of times, Ted, what I've tried to do, I go to a lot of the forums that we have with open candidates and I record, and we try to challenge wherever we can. And I'm not trying to be a nuisance, but I'm saying we have legitimate issues. If we are your constituents and you are our representatives, we have the right to bring this forward to you, and we should have a right to hear you respond to us. You have an obligation to respond to us. And it's been interesting how many times there are people that are like, thank you for saying this, because people are ashamed and embarrassed to talk about some of the stuff, because the reality is some of the stuff is embarrassing. It's hurtful. But at the same time, I think we need to go out there and post this stuff. And as you talked about, as far as with the judges, what I've started to do when a judge is doing something that goes against his judicial canon, I will go ahead and I'll file a complaint with him, with the State Commission on Judicial Conduct. No one is not going to do anything, but nevertheless doing it. And I think we ought to be doing the same thing with attorneys. We should be filing ethics complaints against them. And as you said, they are fair game. If they don't want their name on the front page of the Washington Post, don't do the things that put your name on the front page of the Washington Post. It's on them. We are merely the messengers of their corruption. They are the ones that are engaged in the corrupt and dastardly deeds. And if they are doing things unethically, they should be disbarred or they should be punished. And the judges should be, we had something recently where the judges gave an opinion on something that, to me, I thought every judge from here on in should be recused because they were ruling on a hypothetical. And they said, here's what should happen on a hypothetical. Therefore, meaning I have it wouldn't apply to me because I wouldn't have standing, and that doesn't apply to me. But for any person who's trying to go before a judge regarding visitation or whatever, they should say, I'm going to recuse you because I cannot be guaranteed of of due process and justice because you've already ruled on a hypothetical and publicly you've stated this. And I mean, let them deal with the fact because they should be recused. They have already made their determination based on a hypothetical. And I mean, I just go after them because the corruption is in the judiciary. The corruption is not, it's in the judiciary, but it's also enabled by many attorneys as well. And they're part of the whole thing. I call it the family destruction industry. The family destruction industry has many components. Now, fortunately, there are some good people within that who are fighting against it. Melissa Isaac being one of them, for example. I mean, I always tell Melissa, when I talk about these people, please understand you are not included in the family destruction industry, but we need to call them what they are. They are abusers. They are destructive. They are, whatever it needs to be, we need to put them on notice. And you know what? Tell our representatives, tell our state senators, every time you get an opportunity, do so. And, you know, there's nothing wrong with that, in my opinion.
This is where everyone is the safest. You have a right to be noticed. You have a right to a hearing. You have a right to have a written motion informing you of whatever it is you're accused of. And there has to be a finding against you, meaning you have to know what the court found. If none of those four elements are done in your case, you have a right to get on a megaphone. And if someone tells you, you know what, you don't have a right to notice, you don't have a right to be heard, then there's no point in having a court system at all. That just throw it all out and everyone go home and let's just have complete anarchy, because that is the most fundamental rights that we have. It has nothing to do with he said, she said, who's right in the custody proceeding. It's your most fundamental right, and we're going to get the most traction by talking about basic procedural rights and getting it out.
Well, it's the reason that Dad Talk exists in the first place. Because if we don't speak here, we're not going to get represented. Nobody's speaking about us. The media is not talking about it. The world stands silent on one of the most major issues that we face as a society today. And then when you do speak out, there's consequences for it. And, you know, we're constantly having to tiptoe around because we're afraid of what can happen if we do speak. And, you know, I'm one of those, I want to be very vocal about it, but I've seen people that they've tried to get on and talk about their case on Facebook. Next thing you know, X has got them on court. Or in court. Yeah. And it's you got to be careful. I have people that want to tell their personal stories on here all the time. Well, guys, we got to be careful. You don't know what that puts us up against, and that's not trying to silence people. We need more platforms doing what we're doing here right now.
Well, and it's so bad. The retaliation is so bad. It's reflected in legal advice. The two biggest ways an attorney will be corrupted when giving you advice is, number one, giving you legal advice based upon what you can afford, and number two, legal advice based upon what they feel their consequences will be to them if they really go all out for you. Like, you know, calling a judge out, calling opposing counsel out. I just filed in a case just this afternoon in which the opposing counsel lied under oath that he served my client, then had my client framed for child abduction for violating an order he was never served with. You know, most people wouldn't do that. Say, you know, sorry, you're just going to have to go along with this. They think you're a flight risk. No, this guy lied under oath that he noticed you. And I filed it, and I called it out because that's what happened. But most people will say, well, I'm going to work with this guy in the next 15, 20 cases. He'll do favors for me, so I'm just going to sell out my client. That's what happens. It's systemic corruption from the bar. And the way to expose it is to get these people on TV doing it. Get the attorneys too. These are officers of the court. Expose them all.
So, Ted, there was another situation that I was at recently at one of the courts, when I was watching at one of these hearings up in Collin County. I talked with an attorney who was now a criminal attorney, and he was telling me what his background was. He had been in family court because he went through a divorce and needed to make some money quick. So that people said, hey, go this way. So he made his money. But then he said, you know what? I couldn't sleep at night. I'm a Christian person. I've got to have a soft pillow. You know, my conscience has to be good in order to sleep at night. So he got out of it. But at the very same time, after what I was talking with him, I said, would you mind if I put some of this stuff out publicly? And he said exactly what you did, that, you know, if he's too public, he will end up losing clients. Judges will rule against him and everything else. So I've kept his name silent and everything. And I don't even know if I have his name anymore. But I thought it was very interesting that here was a guy who who said exactly what you said, came from it, left it, because he knew how bad it was and how corrupt he was. He knew he could make a lot of money doing it, but he could not do so because his conscience, after doing it a little bit, would not let him do so. And
I used to be a lobbyist, and the best relationship I had a really good relationship with the former chairman of the House Armed Services Committee, because he knew I wasn't in for the money. We were taking on, the China stuff 10 years before Trump. And he knew very well that I'm not representing Boeing or Raytheon or somebody like that. I'm representing these small, medium-sized manufacturers that they're trying to help. And so, I had a wonderful relationship. When you have a trusting relationship, when you have core principles, you should be able to relate to these judges. And that's what you have to wonder is, why are these judges siding with the mercenaries and the hired guns? With the people that never went through this, the people that are uncorruptible. If you've had your children illegally, separated from you, like they've happened to me, there's no way in earth that I would ever, ever, ever do that to somebody else. Under no circumstances. I would rather be on the street than to take someone's money and allow something like that to happen.
Right.
Because it's just a core principle. Now, I took Cash's case and other cases because Brian Ludmer, who's one of the best attorneys.
I know him.
I love Brian. He's been on Dad Talk.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Brian spent like 6 hours for me, and I couldn't believe it. I said, "You're one of the best attorneys in the world. You helped me for 6 hours with my case," and so now I've taken 4 or 5 cases of my own. I haven't charged a dime, and trying to help people out. And Cash is a wonderful client, and he's extremely public. It's so much fun to see his ability to articulate and to get out there and to satirize and just really hit a strong message. And I try to do the best that I can, but I can say, he would tell you straight up if he was here that we ended up picking this guardian ad litem that we have right now. It was the best that we had, and things aren't going too well for us right now. And they're going to look at us and they're going to say, "Well, you picked her." I said, "Well, this isn't the Miss America contest. This isn't the Mr. Universe contest. This is what we have, and the pool, the people that we have to choose from are dreadful, awful." I mean this. I would go to any document review center where there's 40 attorneys working on a case. I would pull any of them out randomly. I would go to a McDonald's drive-through and I would take out a random employee from a McDonald's drive-through and I would make them a guardian ad litem because I think they would do a better job. Any teacher, any social worker, you name it. I would throw them all out. I mean, if we're talking about throwing out the Minneapolis Police Department, let's clean house in these courthouses. Let's throw them all the hell out.
Absolutely.
Start over.
Well, guys, that's about all the time we've got for today. I'm sorry, Cash, that you was having the problem. It is. It's really weird. If you guys go back and watch it, it was being scrambled before it got cut off. So I don't know.
Some of his best rants get cut off. It just happens.
I've experienced it as well, man. I mean, we'll just have to say it is what it is. But I believe this was a very good interview, and I thank you guys for joining me. And we're going to continue having conversations just like this. And if we can help you or Cash in any way, man, just let us know, brother.
Well, thank you for Dad Talk today. You've been amazing, and best of luck.
Hey, Ted, 1 second. Where can everybody keep up with the details on what's going on with this case?
You can go to Cash Jackson for governor. Just type it in Facebook, and you'll see. He does a very good job. Videos, various things. It's a good case to cover. I mean, he did absolutely nothing wrong, and they're just desperately looking for a reason to do something. I don't even know what they're doing. I mean, just if this guy's such a pain in your butt, get him on his way and leave him alone.
All right.
Yeah. Ted, it was not just that he didn't do anything wrong. When I talked with him about a few things, I found out he did a lot more things that he should have above and beyond that he never talked about publicly. And I thought, oh, wow, he doesn't talk about these other things as well. But he did do more than what was required or expected of him because his children were at stake. And for them to skewer him the way that they have, and for his ex-wife to lie about him the way that she evidently has, as far as I understand, for this judge to target him Judge Selvey the way that he has. It's completely inexcusable.
For the-
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah, and that's right. And for the system to break down, you have to have a breakdown of the judge, a breakdown of the guardian ad litem, the breakdown of counsel, in this case, the opposing counsel. In Illinois, when you get admitted to the bar, you make an oath to follow the Constitution, to uphold the Constitution. The due process clause is included in the Constitution, and that includes substantive and procedural. And these attorneys are violating their oaths every single day. And what this attorney did by allowing an order to be entered on a status call, in my view, is he should be reported. And he should have reported the judge for doing it. But these people love it because when it happens, it guarantees at least $10,000 in litigation. It's
Absolutely
corruption at the highest level.
Right. Right.
All right, guys. Well, if there's anything we can cover again, please let me know. Ted, thank you so much for coming tonight. Jeff, as always, brother, thank you, my man. And guys, we'll be back next week. Make sure to stay tuned and don't be silent.
Thanks so much, Eric. Thanks, Ted.
Bye-bye.